Hello, my name is Robert, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to do a top-down moving system with collisions so you can make your own games. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a sprite. It's going to just be a square, it doesn't really matter. You can use a character or something, but for the sake of this tutorial I'll just use a square, and I'll name this SPR player. Well, not player, sorry about that. And what we're going to do is duplicate this and create a solid object, and I'm going to just edit the image, pick any color you want, let's use blue, and just fill that in. And now we pretty much have all our sprites for this tutorial. Basically it doesn't matter. Let's create an object. We'll start by creating the OVJ solid, and the only thing we need to do is assign the SPR solid sprite. So we're done with that, and now we want to make another object which will obviously be OVJ player, and we'll assign our SPR player sprite. So we're going to start by making a create event. So make sure to comment, it's good practice. I'm going to just type in create bars, and we want three variables. One is going to be the h speed, which is horizontal speed. Another one is going to be v speed, which is vertical speed, and another one will just be player speed or something like that, which will be the actual speed of the player. So I'm going to make hspd equals 0, bspd equals 0, and player spd equal, let's say, 5. Use whatever value you find good. And now we want to create a step event. So look for the step event, and I'm going to type in get input. And what we want to do, I'm going to just use right, left, up, and down. So right will equal keyboard check, and I'm going to use for the WASD keys. So I'm going to type in OR, and since it's right, we want the D key, and make sure it's capital, or it won't work. And make sure you add a semicolon. And now I'm going to copy and paste 4 times. And we want right, left. We also want up and down. And obviously you can name these however you want, and you can just choose whatever keys you want for the movement. I just really like the WASD since it's what I'm used to for playing games. So now what we're going to do is kind of use the inputs. Oh, and before I forget, for the left we want to add a minus, and also in the up. And this is because when we press W, we want it will basically be a 0, and if we press it, it will be a -1. And if you understand how GameMaker works, which I'm guessing if you're watching this video you might be a beginner and you don't know, if you add value to the y-axis and it's positive, it goes down, and if it's negative, it goes up, which is kind of counterintuitive. So that's why we have a minus, a negative, before an up and not an down. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is pretty much use the inputs. So I'm going to create another variable, and it's going to be called horizontal. Well, let's just do horiz, and it will be right plus left, and that's all. And basically, if we are pressing right, it's going to have a value of 1, and if it's pressing left, it's going to be a value of -1. And if it's pressing both, 1 minus 1 equals 0, so it's a 0. It's like if you're not pressing anything. And we want to do the same thing with the vertical speed, vert, and it's going to be up plus down. And what we want to do is HSPD equals horiz, which is horizontal, times what's the variable, player speed, times player SPD. And we're going to do the same thing with VSPD. I actually wrote this down incorrectly. HSPD, there we go. VSPD equals vert times player speed. So basically, horiz will be -1, 0, or 1, and if it's -1 or 1, it will be multiplied by the player speed, which is 5. So if it's -1, it turns to -5. And basically what we're going to do now when we set up the collisions is, if it's not colliding, it's going to move 5 pixels every single frame. So now what we want to do is add the movement, the actual movement in collision, because we're actually still not moving the player. And I like to add these things over there, which looks pretty nice. And I'm going to do the horizontal first and the vertical after. So we want an if statement, open brackets, and we want to use place meeting, which is a pretty handy function, especially for collisions in GameMaker. And it needs 3 arguments, an X, a Y, and an object. So for the X, it's going to be X plus HSPD Y, and for the object we want the OVJ solid, which is what we want it to collide to. So let's say you have a pretty big game with a lot of objects that are actually solids. So pretty much what you want to do is make the parent of all those objects the OVJ solid, so you don't have to do this with every single object, which is obviously very tedious and very complicated, and it adds just more unnecessary lines of code. So we want the OVJ solid, close brackets, and what we want to do now is a while. So while not place meeting, by the way, this thing indicates not. So while not place meeting, we want to do X plus sign HSPD, which turns it, if it's, for example, let's say HSPD for some reason is 100, it's going to change to 1. And if it's -10, it's going to be -1. So it's going to give a value of -1, 0 if it's 0, or 1. So we want that, and Y, and obviously OVJ solid. And what we want to do in this case, this is when the player is very close to the object solid. We want to move just a little bit of a few pixels, but not too much, so that it doesn't overlap, just the right amount. So we are going to do X plus equal sign, which turns, as I said before, a value to -1, 0, or 1, HSPD. And if it is colliding with we want to turn the HSPD to 0 so it doesn't move. So we don't allow the player to move. And now after all this, we can allow the player to move because it's not colliding. So we want to do X plus equal HSPD. Great, so now we only have to do the vertical collisions. So let's do vertical, and let's pretty much do the same thing. And I would copy it and paste it, but sometimes I forget one or two things and I get an error, and it's a bummer, to be honest. So let's do Y plus VSPD, and for the object we obviously want the object solid, at least in my case. So I'm going to add another while, and I have an error. Never mind. While not place meeting X Y plus sign VSPD OBJ solid. We want to do the same thing that we did before, which is what happened. Oh, that was weird. Y plus equal sign VS PD. And now we want to change the VSPD to 0 if it's colliding, and if it's not, we want to allow the player to move. So Y plus equal VSPD. So that should work. And we want to open up a room. I want to make the background white so we can see well. And in the instances, I'm just going to add a bunch of OBJ solids. And just see how it works. And hopefully I don't have any errors or anything. So let's press play. And let's move. And as you can see, it moves. And it's colliding just pretty well. Perfectly, actually. So it's pixel perfect collision. So if you have any questions, if it's not working, or if you have just want to comment down, just make sure to comment down below. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye.